Boris Johnson rejects Trump's call for Farage alliance, telling ITV News his Brexit deal is ready to go. Boris Johnson has rejected calls from Donald Trump to form an alliance with Brexit Party leader Nigel Farage in a bid to secure a majority in December's general election. Speaking to ITV News political editor Robert Peston, the Prime Minister said his party was in the best position to deliver Brexit and insisted that a vote elsewhere ran the risk of putting Jeremy Corbyn in number 10. Mr. Johnson was speaking after the US President had waded into the election, suggesting that Mr. Farage and the Prime Minister joined forces and that the Johnson Brexit deal was flawed. During the launch of his Brexit Party's general election campaign on Friday, Mr. Farage warned without an alliance the PM would face a challenge in every seat in the country which could see the Tory vote splintered. But Mr. Johnson was adamant the Tories would be able to deliver Brexit without the support of other parties, insisting he could get his deal over the line if his party was returned to power in the December 12 election. It's very important to have great relations with the United States of America, and so, indeed, our country does. We have great relations with the White House, Mr. Johnson told Robert Peston. I may respectively say to all our friends around the world, the only way to get this thing done is to vote for us, vote for this government, because, unfortunately, if you vote for any other party, the risk is you just get Jeremy Corbyn, the Labour Party, dither and delay. Speaking the day after the UK was due to leave the European Union, Mr. Johnson said he bitterly regrets the Brexit deadline was extended, blaming Parliament for deciding not to implement the deal that they approved. Mr. Johnson had repeatedly insisted the UK would leave the EU on October 31, famously claiming he would rather be dead in a ditch than ask Brussels for another extension. Trump urges Johnson and Farage to form unstoppable force for general election. Boris Johnson vows to deliver Brexit by January at absolute latest. The Prime Minister's Tory leadership rival Jeremy Hunt branded the Halloween date a fake deadline during the campaign earlier this year, predicting it would end in a general election which could hand the keys of number 10 to Jeremy Corbyn. But Mr. Johnson said the fantastic deal he had negotiated would have secured the UK's departure by midnight on October 31 if Parliament had voted to implement it. He told Robert Peston, "It delivers everything that people wanted from the Brexit referendum, so taking back control of our money, borders and laws. Plus the whole of UK coming out, able to do proper free trade deals. And, even better, after 3.5 years, it's a deal that Parliament has actually said is a good deal, though they then refused, I'm afraid, to implement it," he said. The reality is that Parliament had in its hands to deliver this agreement. Don't forget, they had time up to this date, right up to the 31st to do it. They had bags of time to do it, and even after they'd thrown out the deal, thrown out the timetable, I offered more time. And it was perfectly obvious they didn't want to do it at any price. Abusing MPs is having a chilling effect on our democracy. Cabinet Minister Nicky Morgan will not stand at general elections, citing clear impact of abuse, and that is why this blockade of a parliament needs to be changed. We need to refresh it. We need to come in the middle of December. If I'm lucky enough to win, and obviously it's a very big if, but if we come back in December with a new parliament, we have a deal that's ready to go. That is a massive advantage to the position we've been in for the last 3.5 years. Several high-profile MPs, many of them women, have said they will standing down at this election, citing abuse as part of their decision not to run in the general election. Mr. Johnson said there should be zero tolerance of abuse towards MPs and others on the front line of public life. I totally deplore abuse and threats towards anybody, particularly female MPs and anybody who feels vulnerable, he said. And I've taken that view all the time I've served in politics, because when I was running TfL or any of the services in London, the thing I hated more almost anything else was abuse directed at our staff. at people who engaged with the public in any way, and so I don't think MPs should be subjected to abuse or intimating any more than somebody who works in A&E or somebody who works on public transport. There should basically be zero tolerance.